Hey everybody, been a little while. Brian with Kingdom 2 Connect. This isn't a spiritual or teaching video, although we'll see where it goes. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to share this with you. Maybe not, but if you enjoy this kind of stuff, stick around. For my shop or my office space, I have water and water supply, and my hot water heater started going wonky on me. Basically it was just it was heating up way too much and the water was getting scalding hot, and so I think maybe something was wrong with the gas valve, but it was teetering on dangerous, so I didn't want to mess around with it, and at the advice of a service person, decided to just replace it and put in a new propane water heater. But I thought, you know, I know enough to be dangerous, and I know how to replace the water heater and hook up the gas and all that stuff, but I've never really torn into one before, and I'd like to learn how to maintenance them better. I know you're supposed to change the anodes and flush them out once a year and that kind of stuff, so we'll see. Maybe I'll get a little better disciplined at doing that, but let's take a look and see what's inside this thing. We've got what, maybe six screws to get across this top. That's 4, 5. Hey, look at that. I guessed right. Okay, so 6 screws. And on top here is just where our hot and cold hook up. Let's see if I can get this come off of here. I'm gonna grab a screwdriver. Okay. There we go. Once I can get this top off of here, I'll move the phone over and let you take a look at what I'm seeing. Some kind of, okay. Yeah, it's just basically foam insulation. Here's the top lid. You can see some of the insulation stuck to it. And there's where our hot and cold holes are for the hot and cold water lines. It's got some soot and stuff on top of it, but I'll try to be as steady as I can here with the camera and just take you over and show you. But nothing too exciting, just a little bit of insulation. Looks like this is just hard packed, I guess, polyurethane foam, and then this stuff in the middle is just your regular old blanket fiberglass. Okay, and then there's the center flue exhaust. So I'll put this back over here, and we'll do a little more. Okay, so that's all of that. And what I'd like to do is flip this thing over and take the bottom off now. I'll stand it up. So it appears to have about 6 screws as well. I had to muscle this out of some pretty cramped space in the office, so it got a little beat up as I was trying to manhandle it out of there. I can't quite manhandle as good as I used to be able to, but I can still do it. All right. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Starting to feel better and better about changing this thing. So here's the bottom. You can tell it's got some rust and water damage and things from, it was leaking a little bit of water, not internally, but it was coming out of the high pressure, what do they call it? Temperature pressure relief valve, TPR maybe. Anyway, it was coming out of there because the water heater was heating up too much, and so it was relieving the pressure through the valve and leaking into the pan. So definitely not a good thing to be happening. It has a little, if you're not super sensitive, if you're not educated or aware, trying to struggle with the right word, about how water heaters work. There's typically, this one being a gas water heater, it has a light that flashes, like you might find on an air conditioning unit on the inside, or something that shows you, like, one flash could mean a certain error code, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flashes, whatever, all mean different error codes. So this one was flashing 4 times fast with a pause, which meant that the inside temperature was getting way too hot. So even coming out of the sink, it was steaming. I mean, could really hurt you. So pretty dangerous when it's getting like that. And somehow I even had it on the very lowest setting, I think below low actually, and it was still doing that. So it was putting out, something was wrong internally in the gas valve, putting out way too much gas. I tried switching some parts out and stuff and nothing helped. Okay, so I'll try to move the phone around again and you can see. So we're looking at the bottom of the water heater now, and I'll get you in here close, but you can see the rust kind of on the steel. Hopefully I'm doing a good enough job for you to see that. But, and then on the other side of this grate is the burner, and where all the gas comes in, and your thermocouple, and everything's inside of there, and I'll get to that as well here in just a minute. But there's that, and I'll probably take off the gas valve and show you that as well. And then I'm thinking I may take my saw and just cut this thing down the middle and really get a good solid look on the inside of this, because I've never done that before. And why not, huh? All right, I'll take off this gas valve. Now I've had this out tons of times, changing thermocouples and cleaning the pilot line and things like that. And you may be asking, well, Brian, what's a thermocouple? So again, I'm not going to pretend to be some expert, but basically the thermocouples, the way that I understand it, senses the pilot flame. And as long as it senses the pilot flame, because the pilot flame it should be about I think a ½ inch or so tall, and it heats up the thermocouple and tells, which tells, I guess, communicates to the gas valve to keep the gas flowing. So it senses the flame. It's like, hey, gas valve, there's fire here. You can keep sending gas through the line so I can feed this fire and keep heating up the water. Now, if something happens and the pilot goes out, then the thermocouple says to the gas valve, whoa, stop. Don't send any more gas, because there's no pilot. And if you keep sending gas, we're going to spew gas all into the interior space, and that could cause an explosion. So we definitely don't want that. So thermocouple is your friend. Sometimes they go bad. Sometimes you can clean them with sandpaper and get them to function right again. And if that doesn't work, then you just got to replace them. So that's everything that I know about the thermocouple. Let's see, I just got this undone. Now, oh, yeah, I've got to take it off here. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab an adjustable wrench and take that off. I'm really not a fan of editing videos if I don't have to, just because it's a pain in the rear to me and I don't want to have to take the time to do it. So that's why I grab an adjustable wrench, so that I don't have to hunt and peck around for the right size. I can keep the video going. I guess I'm just old school like that. Okay. All right, so there's our, I guess our burner assembly, what we'll call our burner assembly. So this little disc, the propane, of course, comes from this valve. I'm going to kind of move this down a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the gas valve, and it was in like this. Okay, well, obviously the other way around, but goes in there. The propane comes through this tube, and then it comes out to this burner. Here's that thermocouple. Oops, let me straighten the phone back up. Okay. Right here, this little round doodad is the thermocouple. Right next to it here is the pilot. So the gas comes through here. I'm going to turn it this way. This little white, I guess ceramic or whatever you call it, that's the igniter line. I forget the name that they call this, but basically you press the button on the valve. It has a little lightning mark next to it. I don't know if you can hear that. It's like a click. Anyway, you hit that. It sends electricity through this, or a spark or power, whatever you want to call it, through this line, and then it sparks, and then it basically creates a flame, and then it gets your gas flowing and then you have to hold in the gas valve to keep the gas flowing until the thermocouple gets heated up enough to say, okay, yeah, I see it, I sense it. You can keep sending gas, there's flame here. So these all kind of work together. It's just supposed to be a good safety mechanism. All right, you can see this is where the flame comes around right here, feeds in, and then this basically starts a flame, which heats your water tank, heats your water up. So this is the assembly. Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay, a lot of black soot and stuff in here. I'll try to show this to you. Not sure if you're going to be able to really, I don't think you're really going to be able to see in there. But basically it's just a lot of soot, black soot and stuff. You know, honestly, there is definitely some sediment down in there, but to me it doesn't look that horrible. Yeah, that came off pretty easy. Water valve. Well, I tell you what, what do they call it? The hoarder in me says, ooh, water valve, that's a good water valve. Throw that in, Brian, with all your other junk that you'll never use for the next 50 years. Oh my goodness. Throw it away, Brian. Throw it away. Okay. All right. So the other thing, I guess, would be this gas valve. I wonder. I think that thing would just unscrew from the body. But I don't know. Oh, yeah, there it goes. I'm trying to unscrew this gas valve. I think I'm having some success. I have never actually changed out a gas valve on a hot water heater, so this is my first time actually unscrewing one. Okay, so yeah, looks about like what I thought it would look like. There you go. There's the gas valve. Okay. There's the back side of the gas valve. That's what it looks like. That's where my propane line comes in. So yeah, it's got, well, I thought it was some rust, but So, you know, I don't know what was wrong with this thing. There's no telling with this stuff. I wanted to just replace the gas valve, but it was a lot cheaper than just buying a new tank. But I definitely think I made the right decision. It was time anyway. But the supply house would not sell me a gas valve, which I've replaced gas valves on other appliances before, so it's not like I didn't know enough to do it. They just will not sell it to you unless you're a licensed plumber. So yeah, there you have it. Oh wow, look at that. My propane line just broke off. That was pretty sensitive. Boy, surely that wasn't that sensitive before. Let's hope not. Yikes. Okay. So there's all that. So the gas valve is off. Kind of lean it down to show you there. This is where I unscrewed the gas valve. Here's where my water line was, and I think that's pretty well all the components. You've got some blanket insulation surrounding this thing, but I think I'm going to pause the video for a moment and take my saw and just cut this thing open, and then I'll start it back up and you can see what it looks like on the inside. So bear with me just a moment. Let me pause this and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. That was probably a good solid 10 minutes of cutting with the trusty old Husqvarna quickie saw, which comes in handy. I've had that for years, just doing steel construction and buildings and stuff. So now that I'm not doing that full time anymore, but it still sure is a handy tool to have around when you're a tinkerer, and still like to build around the house and stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna flip this camera around. I just did a quick easy cut to get the outside skin off, and it's laying on the ground here. And then the tank itself, I'll be honest with you, I almost gave up halfway through and thought, I'm not that curious. But then my curiosity got the best of me, so I decided to go ahead and keep cutting. I had to cut down at once, and then I had to cut down a second time to get a strip off of the tank, basically, so you could see, we could see on the inside of the tank. So I'll flip it around now and show you what I found. Okay, so there's the mess. There's the skin from side to side there. There's the thin skin that you see just when you're looking at the water tank. And then here's the actual tank. And on the bottom here is where all the combustion takes place, where I was talking about all that soot and just gross byproducts of combustion. So it's just kind of messy. And then there's the flue pipe where your exhaust go up and out of the ceiling as it's combusting and getting rid of that gas out of your house. So that's what that looks like. And of course, it's, if you can see in there, it's just all full of soot like a chimney. And then you've got your insulation blanket there at the bottom, and then all this polyurethane foam. That was sure fun cutting. And I would say, I'm going to step around to this other side, but man, cutting through that tank was pretty thick. I would say that's probably the equivalent of 12 gauge, would be my guess. Maybe even slightly thicker, I don't know. 12 gauge steel, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I've cut a fair amount of steel, and that took some getting through. So there you are on the inside of the tank. There's your cold water tube. You see all the holes there where the water comes out, and you're following it all the way up to the top where it comes out of the top of the tank, and that's where your cold water line attaches to. And then on this side is your hot water side, and you can see that that anode tube there, or anode rod, and it is just fried. It's got some meat on it down here, but it's getting pretty well chewed up, and then of course as you see up there, it's just all the way eaten up. I guess calcium and stuff like that, it's just eating it all up. So that definitely needed to be replaced. I've read that you should probably replace those like every 3 years maybe. So I'm gonna try to start being a little bit more mindful about that. But yeah, as far as overall the inside of the tank, I mean, I'm not really seeing any rust or anything. The inside of the tank looked pretty good. I think if anything, probably that anode rod needed to be replaced, and probably a new gas valve. And I think this thing really would have been just fine. But I'm glad that I went ahead and opened this thing up, because I would say this tank is probably about 10 years old. And honestly, all things considered, it looked pretty good. But if you're just looking from the outside and you're looking at the combustion area, this thing here that goes on the bottom, you see this rust. And the service guy pointed that out. He's like, man, look at all that rust. He said it's best to replace it. And I'm not saying he gave bad advice at all, but I'm just glad that I took this apart, because you might look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's a goner. And you really don't want to mess around with gas water heaters. So it really is best to just not mess around and just replace it when it starts looking like this. But just for the sake of talking, I mean, it's not like this thing is rusted through. That's just surface. That's just surface rust. And I don't think, honestly, it was in immediate danger. I think it had some sediment in it. You can see where I started cutting around this thing, and then it just popped out, and I realized, oh, you can just pull on this and it'll just come right out. So kind of makes me wonder in the future, if I really want to do some good maintenance and try to make my water heater last a little longer, if I drained it and just tipped it over and pulled this out, you could clean it and paint it and probably put it back together and get more life out of your water heater. But who has the time and the want to do that, huh? But anyway, it's fun to just kind of think about. So that's the bottom there. There's my trusty Husqvarna Quickie saw. It's good for cutting concrete and steel. I've used it for both, actually. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I hope you've enjoyed walking through destroying this water heater with me and taking a look inside of it. I'd like to get back into doing my teaching videos again too, for those of you out there that may enjoy those. And just on that note, I still just love the Lord with all my heart and enjoy walking with Him, and just encourage you to seek Him first and in His kingdom. And there's just no more beautiful life, my friends. I'll promise you that. So with that, I will sign off, and I will see you next time. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. Bye-bye.